Well, the Lakers haven't done much yet. It's been a pretty slow start to the open market for them, but they're working on it. As according to a new report from Mark Stein, they are working and even expected to receive a commitment from 2 different free agents. However, at the same time, they have now lost a current free agent, that player being Luke Kennard, departing to the Phoenix Suns and signing a new 2-year, $13 million contract with them, which is pretty team-friendly. And kind of shocking that the Lakers didn't match that, didn't offer him a contract, and therefore he walked for less than what he got paid this season, which was $11 million. So taking nearly half of that amount. Again, kind of shocking, but now they have to replace him. And like I said, they might be already trying to do that, as according to Mark Stein, they're working on signing Quentin Grimes and Sandro Mamukelashvili. Another report from Jake Fisher saying that the Lakers are expected to land them, and the entire league is quote-unquote operating as if both of them are done there, meaning that they're going to sign and they're simply ignoring them because they basically view them as Lakers. So with that in mind here, who are they replacing? How much might they be signed for? What would be a fair price? And if so many reporters know about it already, what are they waiting for? Why has it not been officially reported, just hinted at, and why have the Lakers not officially signed them yet? Let's talk about that, go through it bit by bit, and try to break it all down here. So, welcome back everyone. Today's show is brought to you by PrizePicks, and again, it's been a pretty slow start for the purple and gold, but this will be a good step in the right direction, especially after losing Luke Kennard, who again did sign with Phoenix, signing to a conference opponent, signing on a very team-friendly deal. Make that like team-friendly deal number 5 for Phoenix now. They're definitely adding plenty of depth, and the Lakers are trying to do the same thing, with both Quentin Grimes and Sandro Mamukelashvili, both of which I like, but it does have to be at the right price. So what might that price be? Well, for Quentin Grimes, I'm hoping somewhere along the lines of 10 to 12 million per year. You know, last summer he was hoping to get 20 to 25 million per year, so cutting that in half would be a major win for the Lakers, in my opinion. Following a not bad but not great year for himself, averaging 13.4 points per game, roughly 3 rebounds and 3 assists per game to go with it. Pretty good for a 4th, 5th option for Philly, sometimes starting, mostly coming off the bench, especially when both PG-13 and Joel Embiid were healthy. You know, he played a lot of different roles to their team. Sometimes has to be a top 3 option, other times has to be an off-ball player, other times has to be a 6-man off the bench, sometimes to be a primary defender, other times not. So he did quite a lot for their team, and for the most part, I've been fairly impressed. Has done quite a lot for a few different teams now. Between New York, Dallas, and Philadelphia, he's shown to be fairly versatile. And at 6'4", 6'5", fairly good length to go with it, and a good athlete, I think he does fill a need for their team. Trying to add more athletic, two-way players that do have a defensive mindset or can have a defensive mindset, he would fit that. And especially if they're trying to replace Marcus Smart. Now, I'm not out on Marcus Smart, I hope that they're not out on him, but it kind of does seem that way. And if they're going to replace him, this would be a good step in the right direction. Adding a fairly physical, defensive-minded player like Quentin Grimes, you know, isn't quite Marcus Smart. I would say it would be a downgrade defensively, but an upgrade offensively. And again, for a price of 10, maybe 12 million per year, signing a 26-year-old rather than retaining a 32-year-old Marcus Smart, it would be a better timeline fit. Again, not entirely sure if that's really their plan here with it, replacing Smart with Quentin Grimes, but that kind of does seem like it, and it is kind of the hint here. And well, I think there's something to be said for leadership, what they would be missing with Marcus Smart. Yes, he'll gain more timeline years with Quentin Grimes and more offense, more reliable offense, better three-point shooting, no doubt about that. But the leadership, the veteran direction, and the voice they can be for your locker room, I mean, with both him and LeBron now being gone, or if they're both being gone, that definitely would be a hit. So something to factor in here. If they're going to replace Smart, I don't think it can just be with Quentin Grimes. I would like another veteran leader, somebody with a powerful voice, somebody that can organize their team a bit and put everyone in the right direction if they're not on the same page. That's something that Marcus Smart gives you that does tend to go overlooked in my opinion. And then for Mamukelashvili, you know, is this a Rui Hachimura replacement? Maybe, maybe not. You know, he definitely cannot replace Hachimura 1-for-1, at least not in my opinion. Maybe in a bigger role he could, but I kind of doubt it. But the main thing to point to here is that he'll probably cost less than half, if not even more, than what Hachimura might get. Compared to Rui, who might be pushing for an 18, 20, 22, maybe even up to 25 million per year kind of deal, I would think that Mamu probably won't get more than 8 to 10 million per year at most, and that would be the upper limit. If they would sign him for more than that, I wouldn't be happy about it. If they would sign him for 12, 15 million per year, at that point I really wouldn't be a fan of it at all. I would rather have Rui Hachimura back, even at 20 million compared to Mamu at 15, but again, I don't find that very likely. I see Rui going for a higher price than they probably want to pay. Meanwhile, Mamu simply wasn't re-signed to Toronto because they couldn't afford him, because of their first apron restriction following the trade for Kawhi Leonard. So it might be a good opportunity. I like the 3-point shooting, I like the versatility that he offers, is kind of a 5, a little bit of a hybrid 4-5, does play more at the 5 because he's not a very switchable defender, not very mobile laterally, not terrible defensively, kind of on the same par with Rui Hachimura, even rated out better than Hachimura. I would say that if committed, Rui can be a bit better, but they're very different. So for Mamukelashvili, at the right price, I am a fan of it, and now it simply comes down to, what are they waiting for? Like I said, it's being widely reported that they plan to sign both of them, that they may have received a commitment, if not are really close to receiving that commitment from both of them. So why have they not done it? Why have they not sent it in for Shams to report it, have the official signing and the official report come out? Well, it kind of comes down to the moratorium period and how they're planning out their cap space. As the second part of what Mark Stein reported is that they are trying to go after Walker Kessler, and if they're doing that, they have to have their financials in check. Meaning, if they make an offer, if you'd accept an offer sheet, then they have to wait after that point. And during that waiting period, they have to have available cap space. They can't use it, they can't put it toward a different free agent. Even if they do receive a commitment, they cannot officially sign that player. But hey, before we get too far into it, let me tell you about PrizePicks, the #1 sports fantasy app in America. It's simple. All you gotta do is pick more or less than your favorite players, and then you set your lineup. And for example, here's what I got going on for later tomorrow. For my first pick, I have Joey Cantillo having more than 3.5 strikeouts, which he has had in 5 straight. Then for my second pick, I have Max Meyer having more than 4.5 strikeouts, which he has had in 5 straight as well. Then for my third and final pick, I have Zach Wheeler having more than 5.5 strikeouts, which he has had in 4 out of his past 5. So if you want to follow along with me, or make your own picks, then be sure to download the app, use code HMA, and get $50 when you play your first $5 lineup. But now getting back to our topic. Kind of think back to what Golden State did last year with both, I think, DeAnthony Melton and Al Horford. We heard about it like roughly a month before it happened, maybe even longer than that. They had the commitment, but they couldn't put pen to paper until they got their financials in check. But after they did it, I think it was the Jonathan Kuminga contract that did it, then they eventually were able to sign both of them, signing both Al Horford and DeAnthony Melton to the contract that they eventually took. But it took some time for them. And kind of a snippet of that is what the Lakers are currently dealing with. They can sign them and they probably will have enough money, but they kind of make sure they have enough for Walker Kessler, the much bigger priority. Or if not Kessler, if they would quickly pivot to Jalen Duren, Peyton Watson, maybe Atari Eason, any other restricted free agent, they have to have that money for the entire moratorium period and for the 48-hour duration that the other team can match the contract that they would send out. So that's probably what's going on here. Now, once they have a better idea of how much it might take, again, whether for Kessler, Duren, Watson, any RFA, then it might come out. The official contract and the number they plan to sign them for, it doesn't have to be until after. It just has to be until they have a good idea of how much money it'll take and how much money they have to save and not put toward other free agents that they do want to sign first, or in addition to the RFA they want to get. Again, kind of complicated, but that's the restricted free agent market route. It's not really a simple one. You have to have the money, you have to have the patience, and you can't commit that money to any other free agent during that period that you are offering the contract. And again, we are in a moratorium period. This is kind of like fake free agency. It's verbal commitment time, but you cannot put pen to paper until July 6th. So until that point, it's simply back and forth verbal commitment, agreeing to something that cannot officially be done until that point. But with that in mind here, I think in theory they're going the right route, trying to go after the tier 1, tier 8 target. Kessler, Duren, Watson, I sound like a broken record. They're trying to do that, it's pretty obvious at this point. They've met with him, they've met with Jalen Duren, they're reportedly trying to meet with Peyton Watson. They're trying to prioritize the majority of their cap space for that player, but at the same time, trying to find more depth around them. Trying to add Quentin Grimes, a solid 3-and-D player, a good timeline fit, only 26 years old. Trying to add Mamukelashvili, maybe a backup plan to Rui, maybe to replace him or as part of replacing him. Also a good timeline fit, getting younger at 27, coming off a good year. Adding some shooting around Luka Doncic and Austin Reeves, adding a front court player, giving their team a bit more versatility. I get it. I like it. I don't like that it might be replacing both Marcus Smart and Rui Hachimura with a lesser player in my opinion. Maybe a lesser fit, maybe lesser production on one end of the court, lesser leadership, but if they're able to get that tier A player, then I'll be okay with it. At that point, the plan works and I like the process that they're trying to do. At that point, it would make a whole lot more sense and I would agree with the process. Kind of complicated, but that's kind of the route they're going in right now. And part of why they lost Luke Kennard, they cannot make a commitment to him because they currently have their money tied up. And kind of the same thing with both Marcus Smart and Rui Hachimura. Hopefully they both wait, but I kind of doubt it. If the Lakers have given them indication that they would like to bring them back, if they could talk them into waiting so they don't have to tie up their cap space and their cap hold to their payroll, while they pursue Kessler, whatever tier A target they want, and these other depth pieces that they're trying to add as well. It's kind of a difficult thing. They're trying to do a workaround by tying up their money, but not really, just in theory with verbal commitment and trying to do a workaround. They're trying to do a lot of things at once, at least kind of hinted at by reports. But with that in mind here, what do you guys think? How do you feel about the reports saying that they have a verbal commitment or are trying to secure one for both Mamukelashvili and Quentin Grimes, while at the same time going after Walker Kessler? How do you feel about that? Do you think that means that they will in fact lose all three of Kennard, Hachimura, and Smart? Or might they bring one of them back? And how might the process look? And what are you hoping for as well? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. But I think that'll pretty much do it for this one. And if you enjoyed the video, then I would greatly appreciate it if you dropped a like, subscribe to the channel if you have not already, and hit that notification bell to never miss out when I upload a video. But as always, thank you.